Guys, the best way to adjust frequency for natural lifters actually goes against what most guys are doing. Because if you're natural, training more often isn't always better. And if you don't understand how frequency should change as you grow, you're going to stall. So in this video, I'm going to give you a clear frequency framework for natural lifters. If you've plateaued, this is what you need to fix immediately. So I'm going to break down beginner, intermediate, and advanced stages and show you exactly how your training frequency should evolve as you grow. Because look guys, here's the reality. Frequency is not fixed. Okay, it's dependent on how much muscle you have and how strong you are and how much, we can't forget this, fatigue, not fatigue, how much fatigue that you generate per session. And as these variables increase, your ability to recover between sessions, it changes. So you have more recovery time. So the best frequency for muscle growth, like I said, is predicated on your current strength, but really it's your current muscle mass. That's what I go off of. But first, we need to discuss the natty hypertrophy pyramid real quick, okay? So I'm sure you've seen this before in my other videos. So we have progressive load, we have intensity, and here we have volume and frequency. Now, if you have watched my other videos, there is an order of importance for us naturals. Progressive load is number 1, and intensity is number 2. Then we adjust the volume and the frequency, okay? And FYI, guys, I need to mention this again. These frequency recommendations are for natural lifters only. Okay, this does not apply to enhanced lifters because this framework is based entirely on natural recovery and adaptation. So that's completely different for natties. So if you are enhanced, this video is not for you. Okay, see ya. Bye, Felicia, right? So if you're natty, like this is totally up your alley. This is for us, okay? So just keep that in mind when we go over the frequency guidelines recommendations here, okay? I also want to clarify that this is for breaking plateaus and growing again, okay? So that means this video is not for maintenance, okay? I know the frequency recommendations that I'm going to provide here, they're going to be contrarian. And some natural lifters will argue that they do the opposite in practice. Cool, you know, great. Lots of people do different types of splits, but in many cases, most guys are maintaining, not actually making gains. So this doesn't apply to you if you're just coasting. This applies to you if you want to break a plateau and grow more muscle. You can maintain doing lots of different frequency splits, but that's not what this video is about. This video is for natties who are stuck and they haven't been able to grow and they want to make more gains. So here is a simple model that naturals need to follow. Okay, so training frequency needs to decrease as you become more muscular and stronger. So here's the basic layout, and after this I'm going to go into the splits. Okay, so I'm going to give you a layout here, but let me move this over here and decrease this. So beginners, this is basically 0 to 10 pounds. This is what I qualify with all these numbers, guys. Okay, this is not set in stone or written somewhere in some book. This is Jay's view on this. All right. So 10 pounds of added muscle from 0 to 10. That's a beginner. Now, the beginner needs to train every muscle group every 2 to 3 days. Okay. And again, let me decrease this so I have room here. And like I said, I'm going to go into this into more detail. This is just, so if you just want to watch this right here and then bounce, you got all the information you got, right? That's not how that works. Intermediates. Okay, so this is 10 to 20 pounds of muscle added. Now, they need to train a muscle group every 3 to 4 days. Okay. And then we have advanced. And this is 20 plus pounds. And we're looking at every 4 to 7 days. Okay. So this is the basic layout. This is the basic frequency for continued muscle growth for naturals. But you got to be within these muscle growth realms. Okay. Now, why this recommendation? Because a stronger and more muscular lifter creates more systemic and localized stress. And as a result, they need longer recovery. Meanwhile, the beginners, they recover faster because they're not strong enough to destroy themselves yet. So the larger you are, the stronger you are, means recovery becomes the bottleneck. And here's a quick side note, guys, before anyone accuses me of plagiarizing Mike Mentzer, because it's happened before on other videos. Yes, Mentzer talked about this, okay, but he believed volume and frequency, both volume and frequency, decreases as you get bigger and stronger. It's clear as day in both heavy-duty books. So it wasn't just frequency, it was both. Now, Mentzer was right about one thing. He was right about a few things, wrong about a lot of things as well. But he was right about one thing. As you get bigger, you can't keep training the same way. Stimulus variables need to change. But volume doesn't need to drop. Okay, guys? Volume does not need to drop. But remember, my recommendations for volume is moderate. All right? It's not high volume. It's not low. It's in the moderate realm. So that's a reason why we don't touch volume. It doesn't need to drop. If it was super high, it's a different story, but I recommend moderate volume. Anyway, Look, relax, punk Billy Hit 579. Stop drinking the haterade and calm your titties. All right, so I'm not plagiarizing Mike Mentzer. And also, since we're on the topic of HIIT, I think guys copy the Mike Mentzer heavy duty reduction without earning it. Meaning you need to get to the advanced stages before you consider reducing frequency or volume, for that matter, if that's what you're following. Just my 2 cents, take it or leave it. So, okay, beginner, 0 to 10 pounds. Now, when you're gaining your first 10 pounds of muscle, you'll hit specific muscle groups every 2 to 3 days. The split that I love is the 5-day upper lower split, okay? So in practice, Monday upper, Tuesday lower, Wednesday upper, Thursday lower, Friday upper, okay? And then of course, Saturday and Sunday is a rest. And the volume for each muscle group, as I always say in my videos, is around 5 to 10 sets per muscle group per session. Or if you use the Synergy Tension Protocol, like I've been showing you guys, that's 50 to 100 reps per muscle group per session. Now, I like to start lower. Okay, I don't like to just blast up to 10 sets with clients. So I start on the lower end and we see the response. But this is our frequency if you're in the beginner stages, 0 to 10 pounds of muscle, okay? Look guys, if you're a beginner, it's very hard to overtrain. You need to get in the gym. You need to practice the lifts. You need to learn how to move weight. Learn how to push with intensity. Develop the habit of going. Okay, and once you add the muscle, once you add around 10 pounds, then we assess the program closer. Okay, so beginners, 0 to 10. This is what I like to program. Now in the intermediate stages, when you've hit 10 pounds and you're sitting between 10 to 20 pounds of muscle and you're trying to grow more, but you're within that range, you will hit the specific muscle group. So when we're talking about frequency, it's specific frequency. It's not general frequency. Okay, so general frequency could be like going back to the beginner. So general frequency is five days a week. That's what this is, guys. Yeah, it's a 5-day split, but that is your general frequency, right? For a specific, or for just muscle groups. So specific frequency is 2 to 3 times. You're hitting a muscle group 2 to 3 times a week, right? So that's specific frequency on that specific muscle group. Okay, so specific frequency is what we're talking about. It's different than general frequency, okay? Now, for the intermediate, it's every 3 to 4 days. Now, the split I like for this is the 4-day upper lower split. Holy shitballs. All right, so Monday upper, Tuesday lower, Wednesday rest, Thursday upper, Friday lower, and then of course Saturday and Sunday is a rest. Again, volume for each muscle group is around 5 to 10 sets. And this volume amount should have been worked out in the beginning stages. So you figure out your first 10 pounds, what your volume needs are for each muscle group. Okay, so chest could be 5, back could be 8. So in that time period of the beginner stages, you are assessing volume response and how you're growing. Okay, so that should be worked out. So your volume's not going to change. What's going to change is you're going to add in basically a rest day. Okay, so we drop an upper body day and we basically insert a recovery day. Now, once you've hit 20 plus pounds of muscle, of tissue, you should be very strong as a natural. Now, recovery becomes more important at this spot. So you'll hit specific muscle groups every 4 to 7 days. Now, there are many ways we can do this. So I'm actually not going to give any split recommendations here. And there's ways you can do it with the beginner and intermediate too, but I think it becomes more nuanced. I know it becomes more nuanced as you get more advanced. Program design does. So I'm not going to give any guidelines or recommendations here, because what split that you use, it will depend on what is limiting your current progression to go beyond 20 pounds. And there's 2 main limiters that exist. Localized and systemic recovery. This is a situation where we assess everything and we adjust the training split accordingly. So of course it's accurate record keeping. We look at the data and we see what is taking a hit, what is limiting more growth. Is it at the localized level or is it the systemic level? And this will help determine kind of how we structure the split when you're at this stage. Remember guys, this is all predicated on strength and size. The stronger you get, the larger you're going to become, okay? Now, again, that's not in powerlifting rep ranges. Like we're not doing, you know, singles, doubles, triples, 1 to 3 reps. No, we're talking in like a 6 to 30 rep range, bodybuilding repetition ranges, and then clean reps, getting stronger in a clean progression. So the stronger you get, this is for natties. Okay, this does not apply to the druggies. Okay, so the enhanced guys, they play a different game. It's not our game. So the stronger you get, the larger you will become. It's a symbiotic relationship, because when you increase tissue, you increase the ability to produce force. which means you can handle heavier loads. An increase in external load means greater internal mechanical tension than muscle fibers experience. Again, granted, it's not sloppy. And we understand, we know that mechanical tension is the driver of muscle hypertrophy. So strength is expressed through hypertrophy. It's a cycle. Yes, you have neural adaptations, which typically happens in the beginner stages. But once you get past that, you guys, strength is the best proxy of muscle growth in naturals. Because I know someone's going to say, oh, well, you got neural adaptations in the first like 6 weeks. Guys, once you get to the intermediate stages, at that point, unless you've just been doing machines, maybe you've just been doing a HIIT machine protocol the entire time, maybe you're going to have some new, neural adaptations if you go to free weights. But most of you guys are not doing that. From 0 to 10 pounds, you guys are doing machines, cables, free weights. It's just not even a thing anymore. Okay? I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but once you get to the intermediate stages, it's not about neural adaptations. All right? Strength increases are not about neural adaptations in most cases. So if that happens, if you increase in strength, especially at that intermediate stage and beyond, you are increasing more tissue, so you have more force production. I'm not saying you can keep getting stronger forever. That's another argument everybody loves to throw out. Well, I just can't keep, if I can progressive load, forever, I would be able to bench 1,000 pounds. No one's saying that. Okay? No one thinks that about progressive load. There's ways around it. You can micro-load. You change the mesocycle and you go to different movements. There's just so many things you can do. You can progress in reps, right? But the goal, yes, we want to get stronger, you guys. All right? We want to get close to a maxed out potential, shall we say. And if we do that as natties, we're going to get big, okay? I'm not saying, no one is saying, nobody is saying, just keep progressive loading all the way up to 1,000 pounds on your bench press, bro. Nobody's saying that. I don't even know, like, you're insulting our intelligence. Nobody says that. Nobody thinks that. All right? So that argument is just stupid. That counter argument is ridiculous. So get off that, you guys. That's the cope, right? Usually it's the drug addicts, it's the enhanced guys. That's their cope, like progressive load is dead. You're gonna keep squatting until you squat 1,000 pounds? You're just gonna keep loading? It doesn't work like that. No shit, Sherlock. We know it doesn't work like that. So we do other things, right? We adjust the program accordingly because we understand that progressive loading forever is not going to happen, but we can push that. We can push it far into the advanced stages. And then guess what? You're going to be big. At that point, you're going to have large muscles, okay? So then once you get there, then you assess it. Okay, don't listen to these drug addicts. Don't listen to these guys that just talk crap on progressive load. It matters. So, going back to frequency, this means that the question isn't just how often do I train this muscle? The question becomes how much fatigue and stimulus did I create the last session on that muscle? Again, the stronger you are and the more muscle that you have, the opportunity to create a higher stimulus is present. Okay, the opportunity to create a higher stimulus is present. Same with fatigue. Not to mention, going back to the beginner stages, not only are you weaker, but your intensity is lower. Intensity per repetition is lower. Muscular failure isn't as intense, right? It's not as impactful. Learning how to apply intensity to repetitions and to a set, that's a skill set all by itself. And this improves with experience and more muscle. So my entire point to this is the muscles can get hit more frequently because they're not really getting impacted by high stress. Not yet. Not yet, because you're weaker. You don't know how to apply intensity. You're learning how to move the weight. Even machines, you don't know. You're trying to co-coordinate with different muscle groups to move. You're trying to target. Your body has no clue what's going on, guys. Beginners and even merging into intermediate, it's harder for them to overtrain. Therefore, for the reasons I listed, we can train the muscle groups more frequently, okay? Now, of course, you can sit there and you can blast chest for 25 sets, right? You can do, because I know there's going to be some guys in the comments. Well, why even bother with this? Just do chest on Monday and just do high volume. Yeah, you'll create massive recovery debt if you do this. Sure, and then you just hit it every 7 days. Yeah, okay. That way is going to take longer because it's less frequent stimulus. If you're doing this in the beginning, even in the intermediate stages, it's going to take you longer to grow. That's what I was doing. That's exactly what I was doing. And it took me a long time to grow. It took me 3 years to add 10 to 15 pounds. I needed a more frequent stimulus with less set volume, okay? Because I know there's going to be some bros that are going to say, don't worry about this frequency stuff, just blast at high volume and then come back around every 7 days. Sure, you can do that, but that's more appropriate when you're advanced, not at the beginner or intermediate stages. And again, that's not what I teach, guys, as far as volume is concerned. Remember, if we go back to the pyramid, where are we at? Right, we focus on progressive load and intensity. That's the most important component here for naturals, because this right here is the natty hypertrophy pyramid, and if you haven't seen any of my other videos where I discuss this, go back and watch those. But this is the most important stimulus for growth. It's progressive load and intensity, okay, for natties. Then we add volume, 5 to 10 sets per muscle group per session. And then we have specific frequency based on those volume guidelines, right? So we hedge the frequency recommendations guidelines up against the volume recommendations, which are 5 to 10. Okay, because again, we're focused on strength, progressive load, and intensity of effort, and then we play with volume and frequency. Okay, it's almost kind of like, I love using food like macros as an example. We keep protein high, surplus, so it's high and it's static. It doesn't move. And then carbs and fats can be played with. They can go up and down. So this is kind of like progressive load and intensity. This is like volume and frequency. We adjust it. Okay. So the 25 set session example, like for chest, it literally does not exist here. Therefore, we look at the stimulus and the fatigue you created for the muscle in the previous session based off of what I teach you, right? And as you get stronger and more muscular, again, both stimulus and fatigue on the muscle, it increases, all right? And this is why we push specific frequency out further for that muscle group. All right, guys, so look, if you guys need help with this, check out the top link in the description. It takes you to my Natty Aesthetics program. I have programs for all stages, beginner, intermediate, advanced, or if you just want to come hang out, and we do group calls, coaching calls, once a week on Saturday. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something here. And look, to the dudes who want to talk their shit in the comments, do it. Go ahead, talk your shit with your anonymous YouTube account and tell me how much bigger your dick is. Yeah. Feels good, don't it? Feels good to talk shit. Better yet, tell you what, why don't you make your own 30-minute video on this, dog? Teach us the ways. But you won't, because you can't. You won't do it. I know you won't. You know you won't. We all know you won't.